Hello, everybody. Oh, I thought it was a string quartet.
I probably should be wearing something silver because this is our silver episode. It is episode 25 of Popcast Movie Club. God, it's crazy to think that something that AJ came up with on the spur of the moment to prolong more content on the channel has already done 24 episodes. And
and,
today we're on 25. It's insane to think about.
and of course, because of the format of every 2 weeks, it means we're nearly a year in as
Yep.
well.
And we've come full circle to 1992.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like we never left.
Nope. Welcome to episode 25 of Popcast Movie Club here on the Popcast Network. My name is Owen. Joining me, as always, we have. Well, let's start out with the reason for the change in dates, and that should be moving forward. How this is going to go? We're going to have movie clubs on Sundays and QAs on Mondays. So, because of that factor, who do I have to blame? Chris.
Hello.
Yeah, but he getting more money.
So this does not affect me. So basically, at the end of the day, I get this message from AJ last night. So I come back from Magic Kingdom, and I'm hanging out with John Paul for the day, and he's like, "Did you get my email?" And I was like, "No." So I check my email, and sure enough, there's a message that says we need to switch days, and I'm like, I haven't watched anything yet, and I got to work at 7 in the morning, which means I have to be up at 5:45. So it was like, then I ran into the problem of, as always, trying to find said movie because I don't stream. And then luckily I found it on a service which has 4 letters and is not Hulu. And luckily I was able to watch it in under 2 hours, still go to bed, and still get up on time. And I got off early today because we were deader than Kelsey's nuts. So I got everything done like 3 hours earlier than I wanted to, so that was good. I would have actually had time to watch it this morning after I got done with work, but nope. I watched it last night, and it was the first time I ever laid eyes upon the Crying Game. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that tonight. And also joining us, we have Ashley.
Call me Fergus.
Oh. Well, it's funny because I could call you Fergus or I call you Fergal. It just depends on which podcast you want to talk about. Needless to say, Ashley had a snack stash that was recently posted, and we are now officially caught up 100%. We are to the point that we're having new content, and that means 2023 movie reviews are coming very soon. So stay tuned for those. And speaking of said reviews, also joining us, we have AJ.
Yeah.
Who is the reason I laid eyes upon this Neil Jordan masterpiece. And as always, I thank him for that.
Was your only context for this movie the scene in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back where they're talking about Miramax and how it went downhill after she saw that?
There's that. There's the parody scene in Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
There's the fact that this was all over the MTV Movie Awards that year. So this was a bigger deal, and I'm very glad that Movie Club exists because it kind of forces me to light a fire under my ass and actually watch some of these movies that I've been wanting to see for years, but I have yet to lay eyes upon, and also check out movies that I never would have watched in a million years, and in my case, revisit some of my favorites from the past that I love throughout the years. So yeah, Movie Club has had a lot of great things for me personally, even though sometimes it's stressful because I have to like rush at the last minute because I'm an extreme procrastinator, but I get things done no matter how long it takes. I said we'd be completely caught up. We are. It may be March, but we are completely caught up with so much new content. If you want new content on this channel, I have a ton for you guys right now. And Ashley, you're probably wondering why your Snack Stash video is not coming up. It's actually going to be your video for the 21st.
Ah, okay. I mean, I
Yep.
just put them there. They go up when they go up.
Yep, that's right. And I think we should be going back to a regular schedule soon. I'll have a tentative schedule for everyone for Movie Club and the QA shows at the end of the show.
Mhm.
But before we get started, as always, one of my best friends as well, Tim Knight, is in chat. He says hello. Brian says 25 movies. Josie says, hey, Popcast team, nice to see you, Chris.
Hello.
So, because due to the new job situation and the fact that we're moving Movie Club to Sundays, we're going to be doing a 3-man Popcast for our QA shows. That being said, Josie had an improv question for you from weeks ago that I want to run by you before we get started today. And I've been saving it for just today. So Josie, don't think I forgot, because I totally did not. Josie said she missed you. I watched it during Noir-vember, given that some consider it to be a noir. Haven't watched it since then, but I remember it pretty well. Would you guys consider it noir? Oh, yeah, definitely. I can see that.
Yeah, there's elements of it in there, yeah.
I mean, there's a femme fatale.
Oh, yeah.
People die!
Kind of. This movie was way ahead of its time. I mentioned this because Neil Jordan originally wanted to call the movie The Soldier's Wife. Yeah, I think Kubrick actually talked him out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly what Josie just said, and I didn't read that before I said that.
Go ahead, I
Josie.
love that the title "The Crying Game" tells you nothing.
Nope. All I knew was the song is done twice. Obviously, the one that is just the original version, and of course the Boy George version that I'm more familiar with. I figured it was an old timey song, but I did not know that.
I think there's
3 times. What'd you say, AJ?
I think the one Dill lip sings, and then the one she plays in the bedroom are 2 different ones, and then the Boy George one is during the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
There's also the Lyle Lovett song at the end credits too.
Yeah, it comes after Stand By Your Man.
Yeah. Obviously, the version I had cut off right after Stand By Your Man. Like Josie. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, speaking of Dill getting on stage and singing, did Dave not think that he might get somewhere with enough brown M&Ms to fill a brandy glass?
Well, if anyone's going to quote Del Preston, it's going to be me. The thing is, at the end of the day, he almost got his neck broken. Like Twin Peaks style.
He should have had the brown M&Ms.
Yeah, he shouldn't have stolen my track jacket either.
I was wondering if you'd recognize him. No?
Oh yeah, his face is unmistakable. But I completely forgot about Broadbent being the bartender.
Yeah.
That popped me huge, obviously. Kubrick recommended a title change. He believed that films with religious or military titles usually deter audiences and were also often financial disasters. Jordan experienced this with, where are we? I gotta find it. I lost it. When The Miracle and We're No Angels both flopped to the box office, and of course it was from a 1960s British pop song.
Although, from what I can tell from Wikipedia, it's also there was a similar film that came out at the time in the mid 1980s.
Makes sense.
So I'm trying to work out what that would have been.
Ever see either Neil Jordan's or Michael Curtis's We're No Angels?
I've seen both of them, but they're very distant memories. I thought We're No Angels was a particularly weird choice for Jordan because it's basically a comedy.
Mm-hmm. Imagine an alternate universe where The Soldier's Wife was the name of the movie. Stephen Ray plays a member of the Irish Republican Army. Ray was married for 20 years to Dolores Price, a member of the IRA, who partook in a car bombing at Old Bailey in 1973.
Yeah, that whole story is insane.
There's more. I have all of it, actually. Josie said for her part in the bombing, Price was given a life sentence, but only served 7 years. Ray and Price were married during the Crying Game filming, divorced in 2003, and Price died in 2013. A posthumous released interview, Price admitted to also playing a role in one of the most notorious unsolved crimes of the Troubles era, the 1972 kidnapping and murder of a Belfast mother of 10 named Jean McConville, whose disappearance remained an open mystery until body was found in 2003. Channel 4 originally backed the film, felt the ending made it unreleasable. Jordan wrote and filmed a totally different ending. When the film was cut with the new ending, all agreed it didn't work. Production received the funding to film the original, and the alternate ending is included in bonus material of some DVDs.
A weird ending as well, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
The budget was so small, it came very close to running out. Ajay Davidson was found for the role of Dilwai in a bar. His birthday's in 2 days. While Jody's being held captive, he asks Fergus, tell me a story, tell me anything. Fergus responds, when I was a child, I thought as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish thing. Jody's response, what does that mean? And Fergus responds, nothing. It's the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 13.
There's a number of ways you can take Fergus's answer to that question.
Yeah.
Stephen Woolley owned a repertory cinema in London called the Scala. When the film ran into funding issues, they borrowed money from the actual location to keep the production afloat. Davidson flew a few weeks into filming. A doctor called to the set, entered his tiny trailer, examined him, and came out to talk to Jordan and asked, have you considered the possibility she might be pregnant? Neil and the other crew began to laugh. The doctor looked bemused and was told the secret a few minutes later.
Wow.
When Dill visits the prison, Fergus has over 6 years, 2,335 days remaining in his prison sentence. Thank you, Josie, for bringing those tidbits to our attention.
And full credit to Jordan realizing that means it would include the leap year if the film was coming out in late 92.
Literally, in that too.
So,
all right.
I need to say something before we start since I chose the movie. Actually, there's a couple of things I want to open with, but I feel like there's one thing that needs to be stated right away. I guess you could say it's a disclaimer.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
So, actually, I guess I can ease into this by starting with one thing and going into the other. The first thing I said when I chose this was that despite the fact that we started Movie Club in 1992 with The Player, and my favorite director's first movie came out in 1992, Reservoir Dogs, and you've got like A Few Good Men and Unforgiven, A League of Their Own, my favorite sports movie. 92 is a pretty insane year.
Batman Returns.
Yes. The Batman movie From Hell is also from 92. And with all of that said, I said the reason I picked this one is it's my favorite movie from 1992.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned before that I'm in the process of writing a book right now of essays of my favorite movie from each year for 30 years, from 90 to 2020.
Sure.
So I knew on top of researching for this video, I'm also researching for that. And the first thing I thought that I probably needed to research was because The Crying Game's always been The Crying Game. It's an iconic fucking movie. And it's always been one of my favorites, specifically from its year. That it didn't occur to me until really late in the game, no pun intended, with where we are now, I wonder, I have no idea how this holds up in the trans community. If it's looked at positively or poorly. So I did do research on that will come up, but I do just want to say I am aware going into this movie that we're going to be talking about subject matter that's more sensitive now than it was, certainly than it was in 1992, as far as the subject potentially hurting people as opposed to the reactions, the mainstream reactions it would get, i.e. Fergus's reaction in 1992.
And
Yes,
the main controversy that it had in '92 was the Irish English depiction of the troubles and everything with the IRA and the British rather than anything else.
Well, I mean, 1992. I don't think I'm not going to be revealing my hand here, but don't think 1992 is done with Popcast Movie Club either. And I'll just say it that way. There's something that's I love that is coming in very soon.
Yeah, there's another iconic movie we forgot to mention. Well, I mean, we've kind of mentioned it, but not very specifically. If you're thinking of what I'm thinking of.
There's two options you could be thinking of, one of which has already been covered on this channel, which I even did a video of my own on. Yep. And the other one is something that is coming to Movie Club, has already been mentioned recently, and is very topical right now, given what just happened recently.
Howard's End.
Of course.
So,
I want to start with this because Josie's. We've been holding this question for Chris for like weeks.
Oh yeah.
Before I finish, I'll finish the chats. Assuming Fergus was not sentenced for any other crimes, he was most likely convicted of manslaughter. Jude having a gun in her hand would negate a murder conviction. Fergus said he has 6 years, 4 months, and 23 days. Based on the film, when the film was shot, November or December of 1991, he would be out in March of April 1998. What I like about the editing of the movie is that it balances between taking its time and heightening tension. Does that make sense? Definitely. Obviously nominated for editing at the Oscars, among other things. If this came out today, the twist would be revealed on Twitter. Yeah.
Everything would.
Or you just like mute keywords, because that's what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do that before I wrote Tron because I got sick and tired of everybody writing it because I didn't get a chance to write it until just recently. So, all right. Before we get started with AJ's pick of Popcast Movie Club and we move on to more chat, Josie's question, Chris.
This isn't a question where I just say I don't know. I hope I have an answer.
It's one of the improv games, the ones that you guys love so much. It's a time travel movie, with the cast being Michael Cera, Zoe Kravitz, Craig T. Nelson, Mary Elizabeth Mastra Antonio, take a shot, Don Cheadle, Louis Guzman, Sarita Chowdhury, and Daniel Stern. Officially held that on since 6:30, like weeks ago.
Time travel movie with all of them. I should have had a pen so I could remember who you said. Well, I'm gonna have kind of like the Doc Brown is gonna be Craig T. Nelson, but Craig T. Nelson's pretty good at comedy, so I think I would make it, just to kind of turn the genre on its head a little bit, I would make it a movie where he's a scientist that doesn't believe in science.
Okay.
Like it sounds weird now. I could explain it better if I have more time. I would put Michael Cera and Zoe Kravitz together.
Okay.
Louis Guzman is definitely somebody they run into in another time period.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I love that implies that Luis Guzman is timeless.
He kind of is.
He kind of is. I mean, I can see that.
I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. But what would the plot be? See, my thing is Zoe Kravitz would be the one to go back in time, and Michael Cera has to go get her because she was impulsive. So it's kind of like in Back to the Future, if when Marty went back, somebody was like, "Wait, no," and then the person went, "Wait, no," went look for Marty.
I appreciate your restraint of not immediately making Daniel Stern the Emmett Brown type character, because that's what I would have done.
No, I would make Daniel Stern. Man, I have to be careful because I can't remember how old Daniel Stern is. So we'll say
He's up there now, I'm pretty sure.
okay. Then he's Michael Cera's grandfather. I got a good one for Daniel Stern. He's his grandfather that escaped from a nursing home and just kind of got brought along for the ride, and then he could see something in one of the time periods that like gives him like a lucid moment he can make peace with. I think Daniel Stern could choose some scenery and turn in the drama on that boat.
I would really like to see that because I'm positive he's capable of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I railed off all that bullshit, like it's like Daniel Stern could do that.
Right.
Who'd I leave out, Owen? Who have I not addressed yet?
There was somebody whose name I didn't recognize.
There are some names I didn't recognize either, too, so I agree with that one, what AJ said.
Well, I think we have enough of a base to go with, so that would be my base.
Don Cheadle.
Why am I immediately thinking of like a government figure?
You know, I thought this. Oh, there you go. He's somebody from the government that's like tracking the activity of the time machine.
He's so typecast now. It sucks.
All right, let's give him something more fun to do then. He can be like.
I was gonna say a politician, but I think I'm just thinking of Goldie Wilson.
I think I got it. It's not fun. It's not a fun role for Don Cheadle, but he could do it. He could be the representative for the nursing home trying to find Daniel Stern.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
There's kind of that goes of the Peanut Butter Falcon in here a little bit.
But let's no, that'll complicate the plot too much. Never mind. I was going to turn Don Cheadle heel, but I'm not going to do that because that's too much plot.
And all this time, there's like 15 different comments have been posted in chat. There you go.
And then one last twist would be that Don Cheadle would find out that Craig T. Nelson was one of the previous escapees of the nursing home, and he's still lucid.
Oh, interesting.
But he spends the movie like not believing anything he says because he's like he escaped from the nursing home. He's full of shit.
Huh.
See, I would love to be able to do this kind of thing off the top of my head, but what you just did takes me fucking months to do.
Yeah, but then when you put pen to paper and I never do, what ends up being more real at the end of the day?
Yeah, if I can never get back to that.
I mean, you're welcome to steal any of my ideas. You know, any ideas you want to use of mine are free to you.
All right.
Well, I hope that sufficiently answered the question for as long as it's been held on to.
I think it probably has. More commentary and more questions from Josie. Check out Siskel and Ebert's review on YouTube. The only nomination for The Crying Game at Golden Globes was Best Motion Picture Drama. Very shocked that it lost original screenplay to Husbands and Wives. The art director, Chris Seegers, also did art direction for Domino, Johnny English, and Saving Private Ryan.
All over the place.
Where
There were no acting nominations at the Globes?
The art director of the movie did art direction for those movies. That was BAFTA, which we're talking about screenplay. That was the BAFTA flashback.
Yeah, it's weird that the BAFTAs went with the American screenplay over the British ones, but at the Oscars it was the other way round.
The set director, take a shot. The set decorator Martin Childs also did production design for The Crown, Calendar Girls, Chasing Liberty, and Lady in the Water. Favorite lines from the movie, Josie asks.
I have quite a. I figure that's something we'll kind of gradually get to.
Right. We'll keep that.
Because it's full of them.
Yeah. We'll put a pin in that question for now. Being of putting a pin in questions. God, so much. Who would you rather do your hair? Dill, Michelle Pfeiffer's character from Married to the Mob, or Warren Beatty's character from Shampoo?
Michelle Pfeiffer. But that's just because I've had a crush on Michelle Pfeiffer since I was like 10 years old, so I'm not going to turn that down.
I mean, just as long as it wasn't like Frenchie and she dyed my hair pink, we'd be good to go.
I was gonna say Warren Beatty because isn't he very loosely based on Jay Sebring?
I believe so, yes.
And Jay Sebring was like a hair artist. Not that I would need much, but he'd probably be in the best hands.
It'd probably be close between Beatty's character and Dill, I would say.
Beatty's character from Shampoo. Fergus was to write a memoir based off his experiences, both in film and during his time in prison. What would it be called?
Scorpion and the Frog.
That's probably a good bet. Like
Makes
that.
no sense.
Stephen Ray was also in an interview with a vampire in V for Vendetta. Josie asked.
For my memoir, I would have him call it "She Was a Girl," since he spent the whole movie saying "You're not a girl."
By the way, we could also cheat and say The Soldier's Wife.
Like that. Josie asked if any of the panel have ever seen Breakfast on Pluto.
Yeah. I really like that film.
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Very sort of similar subject matter as well, involving IRA related stuff. Mainly because it's set in the 60s. Probably.
The Butcher.
I mean, it was around the same time as Batman Begins, so I can't say that Cillian Murphy. Well, yeah, I guess Cillian Murphy was found really with 28 Days Later, which would have been, 2-3 years before, so.
Right, The Butcher Boy.
I love The Butcher Boy.
Don't think I've seen that one.
I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, it was one of the, well, not really early Jordan, but it's
Yeah, I've seen his first one, Angel, which I really like as well. It's like he does all these good films and then he does Marlowe.
Yeah, I got The Butcher Boy as a blind buy, and it's probably one of the best blind buys I've ever done.
I feel like that question should be modified for AJ. For the rest of us, it's have you seen it? For AJ, it's do you own it?
That's fair. Mona Lisa.
Yeah. Really like that one as well.
That's Bob Hoskins' Oscar nomination too. You know who is amazing in Mona Lisa besides Bob Hoskins is Michael Caine. I love villain Michael Caine.
End of the Affair.
That's a good film as well, and I mean that was the other one that got Jordan his Oscar. I think that was screenplay as well, from what I remember.
The other thing I remember was Julianne Moore's nomination. I think The Crying Game's his only Oscar.
I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, sorry, got the BAFTA for adapted. I guess righting the wrongs of The Crying Game 7 years before.
Jay Davidson was also the villain in Stargate. Imagine if Stephen Ray's character fell into the Stargate portal.
He seems Fergus is very adaptable.
I was going to say he probably walked through the whole thing no selling it the whole way.
I just when I saw Fergus for the first time, he looked like a young Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Big time. I was like, where are we going with this?
I don't know why, but when I saw him in that first scene, I got like Adam Driver vibes.
If you look at the poster or the DVD cover for Angel with Ray's like in glasses with a saxophone, you'd immediately think he's Dylan.
If one thing didn't do it, the other one did. His dislike of the attention he received after the Crying Game made him reluctant to take the role of Raw in Stargate. He didn't want to just turn the offer down, so he made an unacceptable demand of $1 million. They accepted it, and it ended up appearing. Call your bluff. It happens sometimes.
And then pretty much retired because of what happened in terms of Hollywood's fascination of him and not being happy with sort of like possibly getting typecast in certain roles, shall we say. He took that million and said, I'm off, bye.
I was gonna say, it's like with all the stories you hear, it's like good for him for like being uncomfortable with fame and just saying fuck it and leaving and taking a lot of money with him.
Yeah, and basically going into sort of modelling where obviously you're more in control because you control what pictures that you want because you're organising the shoots
right,
and everything like that. So
Ebert actually described this as a movie about. What do you make of that?
Say that again.
It's a movie about courage. That was a Roger Ebert quote.
This is another thing where a lot of this stuff's gonna come up again because this movie's about a lot of things.
Yeah. All right. And we're done with chat for now.
Yeah, like I said, I'm like really psyched to talk about this to the point that I have a whole page of notes here, and the writing is really small so I could fit it all. I'm like super psyched to talk about this. But I guess since it's like the main talking point, like I said, we'll get more into the sensitive nature of it in a minute. But I don't know about Ashley, but brother, I know, and you've both said this was your first time. How aware were you of like not just the twist, but like what it even was at all? Like we were talking about before, how the title doesn't tell you anything at all. Like, did you have any idea whatsoever what you were going into?
I mean, I kind of did, but you're my brother and you talked about it a lot. So. Spoilers.
in respect of Owen, I'm guessing well, considering you hadn't even seen it before, I'm guessing, like you said earlier, it's probably just for you the little hints and you saw in like not spoof scenes relating to it, I guess.
Yeah, the biggest one obviously is Ace Ventura. That's how I knew something. I mean, that's how I really knew. But I mean, I'm interested to talk about this one too. Never boring. Just a really slick presentation. Did not know. See, I knew about the twist, but when we were following this weird subplot at the very beginning with Forrest Whitaker, who I've never seen look so young and forever, wearing his cricketing sweater and everything. Him walking around with Miranda Richardson around the freaking, like, this random carnival. I didn't know what direction we were going. Because I knew about the twist, and I was like, okay, how are we getting there? Why are we at this random carnival? I'm like, this isn't a slasher movie, so this isn't a comedy, so where are we going with this?
Yeah, going in blind, it does feel like the intro to a horror movie, doesn't it?
100%.
The funny thing is that I think I mentioned this when we did our Ace Ventura video. Me and my brother did one like a couple years ago.
Mm.
I was very aware of Ace Ventura because we grew up on it, and then I'm watching The Crying Game for the first time. I'm probably like maybe 13 or 14.
Mm.
And Dill comes out and she lip syncs to The Crying Game, and it does register. Oh, that's that song from Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
And then that was it. The first time I saw the movie, I thought to put this, because also the kind of sensitive thing here is that Dill identifies as a woman and Jay Davidson, the actor, identifies as male. So, so the way I'll word this is that when I was watching The Crying Game, I had no idea that Jay Davidson was a guy. I was completely convinced. So I'll throw that out there. So the twist had the maximum impact on me at 13 or 14. Not well, I guess what happened to Fergus would be maximum impact, but I was surprised.
Sure.
I was almost thinking like I actually, this may not be true. This could be a false memory, but I feel like there was a moment where 13 or 14-year-old me thought they might have switched out actors, and like Dill's actress was a woman, and then after the reveal, it was a different actor that looked like some kind of thought. I feel like went through my head like that because I was so convinced. But that's clearly not the case. Just it was Jay Davidson earning that Oscar nomination.
Right.
Yeah, fascinating as well that basically just found from basically a rap party for Derek Jarman's Edward II play, like in the West End. That's
Yeah, like even being aware of the twist, both of you, when you saw that very first picture of Dill that Jodie had, did you like immediately know?
Chris, you want to go first?
I mean, I did because I knew the twist in the back of my mind. So I was like looking for hints.
Oh wait, when you know the hints are everywhere.
Well, the bad thing is I kind of was wondering if I was supposed to know. Like, when Neil Jordan made the movie, are you supposed to know that Dill is not legitimately female? Because I knew immediately, because I could just tell.
Yeah, it was a whole like this movie in 1992 was written about the way Marvel movies are, where everything is plastered with "don't spoil it."
Yeah, of course.
And like when you read about the making of Psycho, where like Hitchcock like rounded up all the books and like got rid of them to keep the twist under wraps.
So
That's basically what it was.
So you mean hashtag Fergus demands your silence?
Yeah.
But yeah, when you see all the clues now, it's like I'm shocked that even 1992 audiences didn't like immediately, because the clues are so blatant when you know. Like, honestly, you know what feels like a dead giveaway really early in the movie is when they're talking about Jude and Jodie says she's not my type.
Yeah.
Just like the way he says that just feels like it's so right then and there it's obvious.
Yeah, and the way he says it to him, he says it like it's like an inside joke with himself.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, like Dill would never let Fergus like do anything to her, because then he would find out the truth before she was ready to tell him.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's a huge red flag. Plus, I don't know if it's supposed to be played off that way, but the Metro kind of comes off as an alternative bar. That's the vibe I got just hearing the name.
Yeah.
100%. It gave me like Short Bus vibes.
That's an interesting comparison.
But yeah, I can imagine it being a bar that it's like the meme where Homer walks into the alternative bar and everything, and then like basically he's like, why is everything going on there and everything? And it's like the place is gonna catch fire, and he's like, enjoy your fire. And then of course she was like, well, what's her problem and everything like that. So I mean, this stuff was different in 1992 obviously than it is now. This stuff's a lot more prevalent in life now, and there's a lot more acceptive people about it now than this was ever in 1992.
I kind of wondered too, with Dill referring to herself in the third person, like The Rock, this first person I thought of, if that's supposed to, and this is just pure speculation, is that supposed to indicate maybe some kind of Dill trying to get used to that new identity, like repeating, like name repetition?
I'm not sure, because Jodie was doing that too.
Yeah, I think it might have had to be the way that Jordan writes his characters.
But now that you've brought that up, I am wondering. The reason I always assumed both of them spoke that way was because one of them did it, and then there's just that thing where like if you're with somebody long enough, you start to like adopt traits from your partner.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so if Dill was doing it for the reason that you said, that could be how Jodie picked it up.
Mhm.
But I feel like I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm trying to be really careful. So I think I want to go ahead and talk about the research that I looked up about like where this is.
Before you go into more like solemn and more hardcore fact related documentation, I want to bring one thing up real quick. Brian also talking about, and of course, when the reveal happens, Fergus vomits in the sink.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Oh.
So I was sitting because I went ahead and just watched the movie.
Yeah.
But I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this movie at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I made my whole page of notes here because I wanted to get all of that out first. Then I Googled, how does the Crying Game hold up now in the trans community? Basically expecting the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a documentary. It's a documentary from 2020 that's on Netflix called Disclosure, where they talk about trans portrayal in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a section that's smaller than I would have thought for this movie. Though this transitioned into Ace Ventura, obviously.
Yeah.
And the conclusion seemed to be, they talked about how the marketing was built all around the twist.
Certainly
and then
in America, yeah.
And then that's what the twist ended up being. And of course, the interviewees are trans people talking about, how certain movies have held up or not. And the main conclusion from seemingly everybody involved was the positives. There was one person in particular that said that they found Dill inspirational because you see this beautiful trans person on screen in 1992. It was a really big deal. And then, yeah, you get the scene where the reveal happens, and that's Fergus's reaction. And of all the things, because the scene that I thought was going to be an issue when I Googled this was the whole development in the third act where he has to, in quotes, make Dill a man in order to hide.
Right.
That's the scene I thought would be a problem, but the only thing that was brought up that they said was hurtful was that Fergus's reaction of seeing her and then puking a lot was basically the starting point of the jokes we would see for a long time in the 90s, starting with Ace Ventura,
right,
where the sight of a nude trans person would cause vomiting and repulsion, and how hurtful that, and they described it as a ripple effect, and how that just kind of went on from there. That was about it, which kind of surprised me. And I do want to talk about that third act development, but I want to talk about, because obviously trans people don't like the vomit scene because it makes trans people seem repulsive and it's hurtful. Obviously, anybody that knows me knows that if I had to take any scene out of this movie, it would also be that one for a different reason.
Of course.
Because of a phobia. But I wanted to explore that being Fergus's reaction, rather than just saying it's dated and it's fucked up. Because this is a movie about Fergus falling in love with her.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a reason the movie begins with "When a Man Loves a Woman."
Yeah. Because
it's what we were talking about, where Josie was saying that Ebert's comment about it being about courage, and I said it's about a lot of things. It's kind of starting with "When a Man Loves a Woman" is basically telling us it's a love story first. Like, that's the key sort of takeaway.
Right.
And I think what I love about the movie the most is the way it's able to blend that with being like this political crime movie, this amazingly well done political crime movie. But it has all these things at its center that are so much more than that and so emotion based. So, what my brother was just talking about, where Fergus is in total denial and just keeps saying over and over again, "You're not a woman, he's not a girl," etc. But we're kind of watching it. The thing about it is, you could see it as his conflict is with her, and his conflict is he sees her as a man and she sees herself as a woman. But the conflict isn't with her; the conflict's with himself the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he's having these, I guess you could say, involuntary reactions, despite the fact that he's falling in love with her at the same time. Because he has that reaction. He even fucking hits her, and then he's puking, and then the very next day, he's coming looking for her. And then it goes, and then there's the scene when they're walking back to her place, and in the same scene, he says, "You're not a girl." And then by the end of this scene, he says, "Be a girl," and kisses her goodnight. So there's like this constant battle with himself that we're watching. And I feel like, and I don't want to put any, like, I don't want to be the person that says this movie is not offensive to anybody, because it's not my place. But I feel like the movie holds up well and handles the subject matter well because it's about Fergus falling in love with her despite himself rather than despite her. So, anybody have any?
I mean, to some extent, Fergus seems sort of unsure about himself because, like, a few of the way that those scenes are shot with Jodie seem very sort of, where it sort of focuses on the glistening lips after Jodie's been hit with the butt of the gun, and like just looking at it, and like it's sort of like, and then obviously he cares for Jodie as well because he's willing to sort of help out Jodie and whatever, and he's conflicted as what to do when they go into the woods to prepare for the execution, and then the tank comes. It's just a big lorry. But yeah, there were sort of elements there where it was sort of like, I wondered whether there was sort of the beginnings of a relationship, and that's why he sort of was attracted and just sort of side attracted to, because it's the only tie that he knows of somebody that's still around that has links to Jodie.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm not like the only one talking. I did have a question for everybody about Fergus and Jodie, but I want to see if anybody else had any other comments before I did that.
I have some chat comments about everything first. The composer Ann Dudley did the score for the full Monty American History X and Benedetta. Josie's response: the love between Fergus and Dill contrasts with the politics of the IRA and potential to come together peacefully, but sadly upended by external political means. This is also referenced in Shallow Hal. Jack Black says, remember the movie The Crying Game? The man fell in love with a woman, turned out to be a guy, didn't matter.
I completely forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Spoiler, Shallow Hal.
Yeah. My question was regarding Fergus and Jodie's relationship. When after the whole Jodie segment of the movie is done, and he's having constant visions of Jodie, and then he tracks down Dill, and he has a lot of there's a lot of the Jodie connection. Like when he's making out with Dill, he says stuff like, is this what you did with him?
Mm-hmm.
Which it could just be taken as that's not me, but I do know that there are people who are like obsessed with what their boyfriend or girlfriend did prior to being with them.
Yeah.
That is a thing. I don't know how, but that's a thing. And then there's the whole thing where to disguise Dill at the end, even though he denies this when she brings it up, he's turning her into Jodie. That's what he's doing.
Exactly.
Is all of this based solely on guilt, or was there always a fixation of sorts that Fergus had on Jodie? I guess what I'm asking at the end of the day is Fergus bisexual? Like was Fergus bisexual before he met Dill?
I was thinking more along the lines of Jodie represents a trauma for him that he had when he saw Jodie get hit by the tank. But maybe that trauma just sticks with him, and he keeps it in his life somehow. He doesn't know how to get rid of it.
That's interesting. By the way, I don't have my own definitive answer to this. I like the idea of it being ambiguous. That's kind of why I wanted to see what other thoughts were.
It certainly has the elements of him being bi, but like maybe sort of realizing that he's bi when actually bonding with Jodie's character. Maybe that's where and that could sort of then tie into sort of everything that goes on with Dill in the, he thinks he's in love with a woman, then the reveal happens and has an instant like, oh god, but then at the same time realizes I had the sort of same feelings for your ex-boyfriend or partner or whatever. So why don't I just stick her on for the ride? Because I don't want to see you get hurt, because I feel sorry for what happened to Jodie, months back or whatever.
Anybody else?
I feel that I think that Jodie always knew. And I feel that Jude kind of came on to him, and he just wanted to try to see what it would feel like. And I don't feel that he was bisexual at all. I feel that he was actually gay, because he knew all of a sudden that no matter what, that's Dill. It doesn't matter if Dill was male or female. That's why he basically called out and said, "You're not my type," alluding to the fact that he's only been into men even if they dress like a woman or are a woman. He's seeing that as the male look. And I feel that when the bond that Fergus has with Jodie, the fact that he shows him kindness, makes me feel that there is definitely something there for sure, because he doesn't want to have to kill him. And that's why he asked to spend that last night before he knows he has to. And he gives him basically the opportunity to leave many times, and he finally does, and of course we see what happens to him. But it's kind of like carrying out his last wish, and that's why he keeps seeing visions of Jodie, because like was previously mentioned, it's the only connection left. And that's why, since Jodie no longer exists, that's why the haircutting consists, and that's the reason why, because Fergus wanted to be with Jodie, but didn't realize it until it was too late, and saw this as his opportunity.
Yeah, because it also always crossed my mind of Fergus being homosexual as opposed to bisexual, though I feel like it's heavily implied that he and Jude have some kind of past.
Yeah, it could be
And
the
that's
same.
pretty much all we get as far as him being with a woman or another woman.
Well, based on that, it makes me think that it's the same situation with Jody. And just try it out, didn't work out, realized that wasn't his type, and that's the reason why there's so much animosity between the two of them.
So, are we leaning towards the vomit scene being Fergus being suddenly confronted with something that's always been suppressed, rather than what he's actually looking at?
I truly believe so.
Because here's the thing. One of the things they brought up in the Disclosure documentary was somebody prefaces it by saying, "I don't know what the director wanted to make," and then they describe the scene.
Sure.
I'm conflicted because my DVD has a commentary where surely all the answers are in there. But when it comes to movies like this, where I choose to prefer some of the ambiguities, I don't like to listen to director commentaries because I like keeping it the way I see it.
Yeah.
And basically hearing a director talk about it is basically just getting definitive answers, and I don't know if it would taint it or not.
I think in a sense it probably would. You'll never look at it the same way again once you know the truth.
Yeah, it's like when some people think it's lazy when a director says, "I'm not going to tell you what it means. I just want you to think for yourself." Sometimes that does seem like bullshit, but there's also times where I definitely prefer it that way.
Josie asked if Jody was not killed, how do you think the events of the film would have played out differently?
Killed the way he was, or killed in general?
Not killed in general.
It probably would have been similar to what the alternate ending is, just maybe with Jody instead of Dill. But I guess we don't know I guess we don't know. Well, God, how in love with Dill was Jody? Like, how desperate would he have been to get back to her? Because obviously, in a hostage situation, he was yearning to get back to her and saw her as perfect. But he had also been dicking around with Jude right before this.
True. It just depends on how remorseful he was about that and
yeah,
what his feelings were.
Somehow, what would have happened if Jody hadn't died is something that's never crossed my mind in all the times I've seen this movie.
I wonder how many people who heard there was a twist before they went in thought the twist was that Jody didn't die. I wonder how many people thought that.
Most people didn't know what the movie was going into it. What was the official, like, when the movie was mentioned, what was the description of the movie? You get a movie facts from 1992 and a little, like, brochure. What did it say for the Crying Game?
The best answer to that might be whatever the IMDb synopsis is, which I don't know.
I don't know if this is necessarily history, but something has not happened fairly often that AJ is the one that goes to his computer to type something.
To go on my brother's point, this was 10 years out from Fast Times.
Right.
So I would say people knew who Forrest Whitaker was by now. Well, shit, from Platoon. The Color of Money. What was that?
Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh God, yeah. So yeah, I could see the idea of watching, because not only do people know who Forrest Whitaker is in 1992, the whole Jodie hostage situation feels like it could have been the whole movie.
Yeah, that's why I was confused when we started in the carnival. I didn't know anything about the movie other than the twist. I didn't know what the actual story of the movie was.
Yeah. So when Jodie dies so early, that probably could have set a lot of bells off for people. Like, okay, this is when we got to start factoring in what the twist might be.
Or
Sure,
maybe that was the twist, because the IMDb just says a British soldier kidnapped by the IRA befriends one of his captors, who then becomes drawn into the soldier's world.
Yeah, that
And
seems
that
very.
synopsis makes it sound like the soldier's the main character.
Yeah.
That seems like something I would have read in a movie fax in 1992 that would have been completely ambiguous to what the movie was and had nothing to do with the title or anything. I wouldn't have understood any of it. Would have saw that and be like, okay.
Not to mention, every single poster for the movie is just Jude.
Yeah, that would have been even more confusing. Honestly. Brian says he wasn't into the first act.
I would think. When I knew that you and my brother were watching it for the first time, my first thought was you'd be in it for the first act, and then you would potentially lose interest, because I feel it starts right the hell away.
Yeah, it does.
What was that?
It kept my attention rather easily.
Yeah. Brother, was there ever a point where you were afraid it might hit a lull, or were you pretty engrossed the whole time?
I never picked my phone up during the whole movie. That tells you anything.
Is this so? Can I? Well, I need to stop now and just say how much I fucking love when I love a movie as much as I love this one, and I can show it to people, and they feel the same way. This is real. I love it so much. Owen said the word masterpiece at the beginning. You said you never put your phone down. This is a real. I feel like this is such a win. I love it.
I feel like AJ's going to get off the call and just take a victory lap.
And Channel 4 nearly fucked it up, which is weird considering all the crazy things that you've seen in Film 4 films since. You know, Train Spotting. Would they have gone, nah, too many people die, and people need to live more? Like,
yeah, when I heard they had to change the ending because they thought the ending was unreleasable, I thought it was going to be a significantly different, like the whole climax was going to be different. I didn't realize the only thing was they didn't want Fergus to go to prison. That was the only thing.
Yeah, so the alternate ending pretty much goes the same way with the shooting in Dill's flat and everything, and sees Dill off and everything. And even does the line to Jodie in the mirror, you shouldn't have gone, sort of thing. And then gets on a ladder, goes on the roof, apparently escapes that way. Derek the Pratt comes in, trying to get Dill back. Sees the dead Jude, like, oh, what happened? Police come in, put him on the floor, guns in his face, like, all right, Paddy, we've got you. And they're like, I'm not Irish. That's what they always say. And they're like, is this trying to be a comedy?
So you're telling me I could have got more Del Preston for the alternate ending?
What's really fun, this is one thing where I did look up what Jordan had to say about it. And you can tell his disdain. Like basically, he shot the ending with no intention whatsoever of it actually being the ending. It was basically just to get funding.
Sure.
And so one of the things he brought up was when Ralph Brown gets, taken down by police again. He's like, Dave is a bad guy, but he's had enough comeuppance at this point. He didn't need to be tackled by police.
He lost his fucking goldfish.
That I'm sorry, but I know you're not supposed to laugh at that, but that I was not expecting when she throws the actual fish bowl out the window. I was like, this isn't gonna end well, is it? And all of a sudden, dead fish on the ground.
It feels like a scene in a comedy where everything she threw out escalated.
Yeah, like the scene in Dirty Work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If only Dave had a popcorn machine.
Like after the goldfish went out, I was fully expecting her to come to the window. Here's your piano.
It's like years before the song came out, it was Iconopops. I love it. Literally throwing stuff out the window and set down the stairs, just out the window. At the 93 BAFTAs, Miranda Richardson was nominated for this and Damage for supporting actress. Which performance do you prefer?
I mean, I love the third act of this movie so much, which is where she really gets to like come back in a big way. I do think her performance in Damage is more like Oscar-y, so sure. I get it, but I guess this is one of those cop-out answers where I would say this one's my favorite one, but Damage is probably more. Her performance in Damage is more complex, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Because when you compare what Stephen Ray and Jay Davidson have to do in this movie, Miranda Richardson has a pretty fairly easy job in this movie compared to what they have to do.
For sure.
Where she and McGuire are essentially the villains, I guess you could say, in a kind of a broad sense.
I have a question about Peter. Did Peter give anybody else the vibe of my father will sue your father?
There was something to that degree I could never quite put my finger on.
He felt like a frat boy that took over daddy's business.
And the one time he took the initiative for himself, he gets unloaded on.
And I have another question about that. If they were so smart and so covert and the plan went to hell when Fergus left, why didn't anybody say, like, well, we could just do a drive-by?
Yeah. It did seem a little overcomplicated the way they made Fergus.
It worked in Grand Theft Auto. It can work here.
I mean, it's weird, like, the security detail clearly isn't great because, like, the one gets shot and the judge gets shot. It's never established whether the guy survived, but you saw there was like there was a wound on his chest when he went out for the old guy. The only one that didn't was the guy that shot Peter dead, which is where Jesus, Mary, Mother of God. I am saying that because Adrian Dunbar is the guy that plays the Chief Ted Hastings in Line of Duty, which I think is one of the best TV series that's ever made. So it's weird to see him be such a villainous role when I'm so used to him just taking out bent coppers, which he just says in every episode as well, at least twice. Which means there's about 13 episodes of bent coppers. And then also, whose line is it anyway? Flashbacks. Tony Slattery is the owner of the building that's getting renovated as well. Just randomly popping up, along with Jim Broadbent.
AJ, I have an answer to your question of what happens if Jodie doesn't die. Pretty sure Jodie becomes the cop in Phone Booth that Forest Whitaker plays.
I was gonna say which Forest Whitaker role is this going towards?
He pays forward the kindness that Fergus showed him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Ha! You thought I was making a joke.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, or I was gonna say Ghost Dog.
So, favorite Forest Whitaker performance?
not just because it's the topic on hand right now, but I would say pretty easily it's this one, even though I know The Last King of Scotland is also undeniable, and I just mentioned Ghost Dog, which is obviously amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it's a real shame how it seemed like, weirdly enough, it seemed like once he won his Oscar, he started getting thrown in a lot of roles that don't utilize him as well as they could.
Mm-hmm.
You could say the same about Halle Berry.
Yeah.
I tend to
Right.
lean towards this as well.
After seeing it, I can agree.
I feel like Forrest Whitaker should have got nominated.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, it was a very strong year for the category, but much as I really hate to say this, because I love that this person's an Oscar nominee, I think I would have bumped out David Paymer and put Whitaker. Because besides Davidson and David Paymer, the other three were Hackman and Unforgiven, Nicholson and A Few Good Men, and Pacino and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Oh man, that's a tough lineup.
The category's fucking crazy.
Yeah, there's some heavy hitters in there.
So I'll give that question to Ashley when he returns. Miranda Richardson had an MVP year, says Brian. Crying Game, Damage, and Enchanted April came out all nominated for the Oscar.
If we're still on Oscar stuff, I wanna. This might be something we should do with Ashley here, but it's something we've already kind of touched on, and that comes up throughout. So I'll just kind of condense it the best I can. To talk about Jay Davidson's Oscar nomination and how well earned it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on with this character. On top of everything, like all the shit this character clearly goes through. There's even like a throwaway line in there where she says something like, the things a girl has to put up with when Dave's like chasing him around in the car.
Mm-hmm.
But despite this, she still seems to have this pretty, I don't know, pause is the right word, this sort of upbeat attitude about the way she goes about her life.
Right.
She seems to basically be doing anything that makes her happy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of sadness because we know there's a hole inside her that's missing, that's Jody.
Mm-hmm.
Ability. And then there's the whole climax where she gets to go full vengeance. All while she's basically wrapped up in this really convincing love story.
Sure.
Shit. I just said all of that to build up to ask my brother a question, and I've just noticed that he's not there. He is.
There you go. You're good.
Brother, have you heard me this whole time? I hope so. Nope. He didn't have his earbuds in. So, I was talking about all the different layers of Jay Davidson's performance. Multiple layers, multiple emotions. I was going to ask you since they were both nominated in the same category in the same year, if the choice was Jay Davidson or Nicholson and A Few Good Men, who would be the Oscar winner? Obviously, we're taking Hackman out of the equation.
Who would win between Jay Davidson and Nicholson?
Yeah.
Jay Davidson.
Yeah, because Nicholson's got the one. I mean, Nicholson's great the whole time, but he's specifically got the one iconic scene. Because the reason I ask this question is because I feel like if you were to just look at those five and say who do you think should have won, almost as a reflex, I'd say Nicholson. But actually thinking about it, Jay Davidson is fucking phenomenal the whole time here.
I mean, you know me, I'm a big Nicholson guy. Without the "you can't handle the truth" scene, Nicholson doesn't even get nominated.
That's true. And I feel like the another thing that's amazing is Dill is a character that never feels all over the place. But it feels like you could turn this movie on at any point and you'd be getting like a different performance. Like I said, the what I was talking about while you were gone was like the switching up between, you know, being a strong character with like a sense of humor, or being vulnerable, or the climax where she's vengeance hungry. It's an insanely layered performance with so much going on, and it's incredible that it's coming from somebody that like was just kind of discovered randomly. And easily you could call the heart of the movie and the reason the movie's successful.
Right.
Though we also talked about the complexities of Fergus's connect, not just to Jordan's writing, but to Ray's performance also. And I love a lot that Ray was nominated also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the various nominations of how well The Crying Game did. Lots of nominations. Not as many wins as you'd expect, but did quite well in the guilds. Only lost DGA.
Damn. Oh, yeah, I do remember. I remember seeing that now. Yeah, because that was. I'm assuming DGA was probably Eastwood, and that's where.
Yeah.
Unforgiven kind of came in.
Wooly won for PGA, Jordan won for WGA, and Jordan was nominated for DGA. Nominated for the Globe, ton of nominations, won British film at BAFTA, and of course Jordan won screenplay at the Oscars.
Yeah, so I guess my hope, like I said, it's not my place to say this one way or the other, but I would hope that this is a movie that can still hold up for people,
Yeah.
even as, because like I said, it feels all like it's the complexities of Fergus's character, where it's like we were saying, the scene where he says a lot of negative things that time he's walking her home after he knows, and he says like, you're not a girl. He says he wishes he didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that, and that's something that sounds like it could have been well-meaning, but
Right.
still obviously is. But like I said, at the end of the day, at the end of that scene, the way I said it was, and then he kisses her goodnight. The thing I didn't mention was that she asks for the kiss, and he accepts it. So it's like this whole, yeah. So it's definitely something I feel like is much more about the complexities of Fergus's character than Jordan being insensitive. But like I said, I'm not saying that if somebody's hurt by this that they're wrong. I'm
Right.
saying that's how I see it. Is yeah.
Right. Ashley, before we go into the Josie and Brian show when it comes to the chat, favorite Forrest Whitaker performance?
Last King of Scotland. Having
Fair.
like personal, because of the British ties and everything, knowing how actual crazy Idi Amin was. He's on the verge of Caligula as you see him in the films. Or who's the other one that was the Nutter Emperor? Nero, was it? That had the Oedipus complex. All that sort of thing. I think it was him. I need to remember my Roman emperors more, but like...
I just hear this and my first thought is, I feel like that could be any of them.
No, some of them are relatively normal.
All
Then
right.
there were others that were like, I want to get married to my mother and have sex with her, and like, that isn't normal.
All right. Josie chimes in. Stephen Ray's birthday is Halloween.
Nice.
AJ, I think this is a good. There's a good couple of questions from Josie directly. I would say directing these to you. They're not direct to you, but I'm directing them to you because I think they make the most sense given what the subject matter is. What are lessons from screenwriting you think that can be taken from this movie?
Well, the first thing is, I don't know. Well, certainly foreshadowing is used, but I don't know if that's the term I'm looking for as far as when a movie is like planting seeds subtly. When you look at when you look at the beginning of this movie and what we were talking about before, where it feels like that could have been the whole movie as the hostage situation,
Certainly.
and then it seems like this big twist that Jody dies as early as he does, and then the movie becomes something else entirely. I love the stuff when that happens because it kind of feels like Hitchcock-like in the sense of like the scenes where he's first kind of following Dill around and looking for her and like finding her remind me of Vertigo a lot. But the idea that this movie that seems like it's a totally different movie, there is so much that is subtly set up in that first like 40 minutes that we think is a completely different movie.
Right.
And seeing how all of that ties in. And the way that like the love story and the crime aspect, the political crime aspect and all that stuff, the whole Jody section of the movie, the way all of that comes back together, like I feel like one of the reasons this was nominated for editing is the climax itself. It's like a perfectly built up climax, and that's not just it cutting back and forth from the events of like, you know, like this assignment that Fergus is being sent on, and then Dill finding out what's actually going on and the involvement with Jody. All of this is coming together in this perfect storm where you just literally have it stays the whole time when you say you have no idea where this movie is going. The movie's got like 10 minutes left and you still have no idea where it's going.
Accurate.
You still have no idea who's about to die.
Nope.
How this is going to get carried out. Who's going to do something really fucking reckless. And yeah. And the way it approaches love stories also, the way we see Fergus's love for her evolve and kind of start with what looks like it starts with an attraction, then it appears to be repulsion, then it kind of evolves into unconditional love, which is wild. And sticking to your guns on your ending. It doesn't have to be. I would say it's a bittersweet ending actually, because of all the crimes that Fergus has probably committed, the fact that the one he's taking for Dill is the only one he seems to be in prison for, it seems pretty light.
Right.
So yeah, it's crazy to me they had to fight for that ending because it's not the downer it appears to be.
Mm-mm.
And I said, if anything, it's a further expression of his love because she even says this. He's in there because he took the fall for her.
I'd certainly emphasize as well on the stick to your guns thing, because from what I can tell from the Wikipedia sort of notes on it, the original story that he based off of, Dill was a straight woman, rather than a transgender person. So. And when you think of that, how it would look, you know, like as a that I think would be like make Fergus look worse, because it basically just look more like, you know, being more in love. It would be more sort of like not end of the affair, but like I guess Vanilla Sky-esque, like going with the woman just because sort of thing, rather than, I mean, that's probably, you know, wrong film, but you know, the whole dynamic between Jodie and Fergus and Dill and Fergus would have been completely different if Dill was cis female.
Yeah, it would have been, first of all, it would have been significantly less interesting.
Yeah.
because you would think it seems like it's not that big of a change, but just Dill being trans adds so many layers, not just to her, but to Fergus especially. Like that seems to be the core of, you know, Fergus being worthy of being the lead character. Otherwise he's just some fucking guy that
Yeah.
And Ashley, Josie I'll have another question, but I feel that this is more on your way of thinking. If you were to teach a history class and have a unit on the IRA, would you teach this film?
Ooh. I'd certainly have it as like extended viewing, but I think stuff like Wind That Shakes the Barley, which really goes into the sort of the peak of like how it all started, and then stuff like I guess no, they're related to my next candidate film that I so hope comes up in 2 weeks. But well, I guess it will still fit in 4 weeks, whatever, as long as it's the first two. So I won't mention that one, but to some extent as well, I'd also recommend In the Name of the Father, just from like get the other view of those innocent people that sort of got persecuted. Then again, if you look into the sort of real cases, some of the people may have sort of got off because they gave info on other things. So whether they're sort of truly innocent, you know, because obviously there was a big controversy even at the time when the film came out. There was a major London pub bombing, which I don't think is the one that's referenced in the Name of the Father, because that would have been too soon. But I think certainly stuff like that, and then even going up to that weird one with Timothy Spall and Cole Meany. It's about like the end of it, where supposedly Martin McGuinness and Ian Paisley, these villains, were sort of like stuck in a car together or for something. Which I don't think it actually happened, but it's sort of there's a lot of stuff which I think reflects the Troubles a lot better. Certainly Paul Greengrass's Bloody Sunday, which introduced us to shaky cam. And if you didn't like United 93 or any of his Bourne films, there's enough of a good story in Bloody Sunday for you to probably like get into it. But that is the beginning where we really sort of saw the real shaky cam stuff, because I think that was like a year or two before the Murder of Stephen Lawrence TV drama again, which I don't even that got. I know Bloody Sunday got sort of made into a film release, but I don't think the Stephen Lawrence one did. But there's other ones, but I'd certainly do it as extended things, because it does sort of showcase the sort of things that the IRA would do to sort of try and get political one-upsmanship. But of course you see a lot of, I mean, it's a different era, but Bridge of Spies is very sort of like shows you the negotiating tactics of prisoners and, you know, captive, you know, individuals that are sympathetic to other views of the other state, sort of thing. So, but I'd certainly put it in the extended stuff, because part of me feels that the IRA thing is sort of the subplot, whereas the sort of the relationship with Jodie and Dill and Fergus and all that sort of is the main focus. It just is around the turmoil that was Britain and Ireland, as it still was in the early 90s, and arguably up until to some extent still to this day, where you see incidents here and there of troubles like stuff with new sort of militant wings of IRA that have IRA in the name, but it's not the same IRA because, you know, the two leaders of Sinn Féin at the time of the agreement in '97, McGuinness and Jerry Adams, were prominent like IRA members at a point. So, but they realised peace was the best thing to go with, and when they managed to get it, it's just you get those that are sort of hunkered in, sort of, I don't want to say Stockholm syndrome style, but sort of like that some people feel that that's the only way they can get their point across. So, as I say, extended reading. And that was my TED talk. Thank you.
I was going to say, I don't want this to sound like surprise, but I was just sitting here going, wow, Ashley's really knowledgeable.
All right. A couple things. Brian talking about the 6 Oscar nominations. Pacino, 1 actor. Picture director for Neil Jordan. Supporting actor for Davidson, and film editing were the other 4 nominations. Losing the picture winner Unforgiven, including Eastwood for director, Hackman for supporting actor, did win for original screenplay, as I mentioned earlier, beating Husbands and Wives, Lorenzo Zoil, Passion Fish, and Unforgiven. Winning British film at the BAFTAs, but losing picture at Howard's End. Jordan lost director Robert Altman for The Player, irony. Actor to Robert Downey Jr. for Chaplin. Davidson lost to Gene Hackman. Richardson beat herself, and screenplay to Husbands and Wives. 92 is the return for Best British Film category for the BAFTAs since 1967. Ironically, they just gave it to The Crying Game. No other nominations. Only got a picture drama nomination at the Globes, losing The Scent of a Woman.
I know. I know with one of those award things, at least in terms of 92, whether it was like London Film Circle or something like that, one of the bodies just copped out and said, "We're just giving it for all your body of work." That's where I come up with this person for something, because they'll eventually work out which one it is, but at some point it could be either.
Like I mentioned, Brian also says it won WGA, lost DGA to Eastwood, like we mentioned earlier, PGA over the other picture nominees. And Davidson definitely deserves that nomination, says Brian. Yes. The Oscar clip was pointing the gun at Fergus. Race clip was with Whitaker at night. And Brian also realized this is an interracial romance movie as well.
Oh.
One thing you don't really think about, honestly.
And of course, and it's a race relations thing, because despite the Irish wanting the English out, apparently, from what lines that Forrest was saying, it's basically the Irish didn't want the black people around either, sort of thing.
Right. All right. Josie has a couple bits of information and questions first, and then we will probably get our final thoughts and take this home. Although this is a drama, what are the funniest parts of the movie?
I would say the scene where Jodie has to take a piss.
That is one of the funniest things I've heard in a while, actually.
But is it I would say is the funniest line, it's only a piece of meat, but I think it might be topped by, it's got no major disease.
It's got no major diseases. I was like, I got the clap before it. Okay.
But the reason I hesitated to say that's a comedic scene is that's another case of, very early in the movie, we're forcing Fergus to confront a dick and seeing his reaction to it. It all feels so premeditated for the later parts of the story.
It made me smile, like, right at the start, where Jodie gets the bunny from doing the hoop over the bowling pin. And as soon as he gets the bunny, he sort of puts it into, like, doggy style on it. as if he's just that horny. Like, he's that desperate to cop it off with Jude. He's like,
Josie says, I love Miranda Richardson in this movie. I love her as the voice of Mrs. Tweedy in Chicken Run. Imagine Fergus shooting Mrs. Tweedy. Miss Tweedy. Good lord.
the weird thing is, I'm confused because I went on Miranda Richardson's IMDb and it says she's gonna be Mrs. Tweedy in some upcoming thing, but the thing has no title, it has no directors. So I think somebody's managed to go onto IMDb, like make their sort of dream like Americanized Chicken Run thing, and then just put it on IMDb, and it's just there. Like, there's no production company, there's no other details. It's just like, why the shit is it there?
I guess I would say another funny scene is any scene where they're using broadband to communicate with each other.
Yeah, that's another thing I don't want to gloss over. Obviously, the Jim Broadbent as the bartender, Cole.
Also, with him doing the crying. No, not crying. What's the song? Oh, I'm trying to remember what the song is. That they like all the people in the bar start singing to, and they're all sort of normal singing, and then Broadbent's just all over the place. Like,
Oh, and I don't know if you noticed or not, but one of the songs they were doing at karaoke was the theme song to Arliss.
Yes, it was the theme song to Arliss, 100%. I was like, I'm definitely not going to not mention that. That's the only reason I know. That's like knowing the existence of, like, certain music being like 5 O'Clock World. 5 O'Clock World's a very famous Dave Clark 5 song. A lot of people know it. I know it as the original theme of the Drew Carey Show.
oh, that was it. The White Cliffs of Dover.
Yeah, definitely. That's not surprising. That was the song that was utilized in this
No,
movie.
but that's Jim. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I very much love Broadbent in this movie. I needed more Broadbent all day, every day.
I just like how all the communication they did never interrupted his work.
Of course.
Brother, did you have a choice for like a funny moment or scene?
Kind of for funny and for genuine. It's after the pee scene whenever Fergus tells him it was his pleasure and they both start laughing. I kind of wonder if some of that was they laughed through the line and just kept it because it just seemed very genuine.
Yeah, the thing that I really love, a particular scene I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention, it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, is that the whole balance, like the tonal balance of the scenes between Fergus and Jodie, and how they're like playful, but there's a constant sense of danger. And I love how much that culminates in one of my favorite scenes of the movie, which is right before Jodie dies, when Fergus has to chase him through the woods. And it's like the way that it's building, and you know something drastic is about to happen, and the way they're building that up. It's very clear that something bad is about to happen, and we're already in the situation where Fergus is having to kill him. But at the sight of it and the way they're talking to each other about the sports still, it also, at the same time, all of that doom is happening. It looks like two friends playing. And it's like that scene's incredible to me, how it manages to do that at the same time.
So we have just a little bit more, and then we're going to finish. Josie says, if Jay Davidson were to return in more movies again, which directors would you like to see him work with? Same with Stephen Ray.
I'd love to see Stephen Ray in a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Ray seems like he would be a good movie critic.
Ooh.
We'll get to that tomorrow, because no doubt we'll discuss it.
No, yeah, for sure.
And the craziness that is PTA's next film. Jesus Christ, that's going to be a crazy 2024.
Plausible deniability.
It's kind of a hard question to answer when it's assuming that he'd be able to fall right back into, say, a performance of the quality of the Crying Game. The sky seems like it'd be the limit with how many different ways Dill is played throughout the movie. So, yeah, God, it could really be anybody, and I feel like it'd be fitting.
Yeah, he hasn't worked since 2009, so. A movie does not even have an IMDb page.
Because I think his only movies were just this and Stargate.
Yes. Josie, I want to end with that. If you were to make an educated guess, AJ and Ashley, as far as which older films influenced this one for Neil Jordan.
Well, I already brought up Vertigo.
Yeah.
The one I can't mention because it's my next pick. Because that seems very well, certainly for the second half, but sort of the in some weird manner, I think, although it's not a sort of sexual sort of thing that seems to be between the two of them, but I think like something like Assault on Precinct 13, because of the two sort of being bonded and sort of being stuck together for the days that they are, like right at the start. I can see sort of some elements of that, sort of getting to know each other and sort of getting along, even though other people think it's, not a wise move. Maybe something like that. I don't want to say something. I mean, Death in Venice is wrong exactly because it's more paedophilic, arguably, but that sort of kind of maybe forbidden love sort of aspect. I don't know what other films in the 60s and 70s would have really harnessed that to some extent. But, that sort of thing, it's hard to tell, especially when there's another one that could possibly go. Breakfast on Pluto is a more IRA troubles thing involving transgender stuff than Crying Game is. So basically Crying Game might have inspired Breakfast on Pluto. I know that's copying out.
We were saying before, it's for the Crying Game, it's more or less just kind of the setting, and that's.
Mm-hmm.
Brian says, obviously Richardson can't reprise her role for Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget.
Well, maybe sort of flashbacks or some sort of weird dream thing. I don't know.
Also says, my thoughts, this is Brian talking, I do think it's a good movie. Once we get to the second act with Fergus and Dill not big on the first act, I wouldn't mind seeing it again and I'll get it on Blu-ray. But I would go back to Mona Lisa more so. But I would go back to the bar from this movie. It would be about an 8 rating or a B for me. And since this would be the last time, at least for the foreseeable future, one more improv game. Happy trails to being a part of the QA shows for the time being. Come up with a science convention movie starring Stephen Ray, Jay Davidson, Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Romani Malco, Kevin Bacon, Reyes Sehorn, Bridget Lynn, Miles Teller, and Jesse Buckley.
Kevin Bacon is definitely hosting the convention. Um, I was I would have Stephen Ray be kind of like like an Alan Rickman in Galaxy Quest type, where like he's famous from a science fiction show, but he's very jaded about it.
That would be really fun to watch him play.
So Stephen Ray's playing Hugh Grant.
I guess. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know a lot of the people that you mentioned.
I feel
Yeah, so
that
there was
Jesse Buckley's character could be sort of a hidden figures sort of esque, you know, somebody that isn't given much chance, but actually, you know, is pivotal to what they come up with at this convention thing.
I'm trying to think of something like this. I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I'm trying to think of something that Jay Davidson can do that's not related to being transgender, just to assign like a general role.
Hmm. Rhea Seehorn would just be the secretary.
And I don't want to draw too much from Galaxy Quest. Like Stephen Ray's character is the only thing I want to relate to that in any way. Jay Davidson could be like a cosplay show director or something.
All right. And it looks like Brian's getting the last word. It's odd where Jordan's career as director went to down his recent film Marlowe. Those reviews, though.
Yeah, one of the things that stands out the most to me, as far as how did he end up with this, was The Brave One with Jodie Foster.
Yeah. Mm.
Though, Greta is his, isn't it? The Hubert Moretz movie.
That was his last film before he created Riviera and the Borgias for television, sort of in that gap between there and Byzantium that was out in 2012. Although that was just him directing, it wasn't really, you know, him doing anything else.
Yeah, Greta's not great, but I like that you can tell it's him at least.
Yeah.
This is from a question a while ago, but I just thought of another director I'd love Stephen Ray to work with, and that's Todd Phillips, but not Hangover Todd Phillips, Joker Todd Phillips.
I can definitely see that. I wonder if also that's V for Vendetta in the back of our heads. Would
Maybe
it be
just have him be a doctor at the mental hospital in Joker 2, and then I get what I want.
I don't want to use the M word, Owen, because it will trigger you. But considering how Joker is to some extent an Elseworld story compared to the Pattinson stuff, I think just because of the accent and everything, Ray would be an interesting Cobblepot penguin. But maybe not like as a sort of ultra sort of villain, just like this, maybe the person that's sort of bankrolling the asylum, but uses it to sort of get people that working for him sort of thing. Not necessarily sort of as a mastermind criminal, but sort of, you know, people for jobs where he gets a bit on the side sort of thing.
Right.
Maybe something
I guess
like
it's-
that.
I think rather than DC, I think I would possibly look at Stephen Ray as like a Norman Osborn type.
I guess during this conversation, it's worth noting to all of us, he's older than I thought he was. Right now, he's 76.
Mm-hmm.
That changes things a little bit. He could still be a doctor in Joker 2 at 76.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look like he sort of plays 76 in most of the stuff that he's done. Somewhat, he doesn't look in his 70s in Greta, but
Yeah.
technically he would have been. Um,
I think I just crave another performance like he gave an interview with the vampire. I feel like that's probably him at his most unhinged, right? It has to be.
I don't know.
yeah.
Are you gonna throw like Fear.com in there?
Oh my god, that was probably the first movie you ever saw him in, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say so.
What an introduction to an Oscar-nominated actor.
Well, then it got rectified 2 years later when V for Vendetta came out.
Yeah, God, that's crazy how close those were. It doesn't feel like it.
And I think he was pretty good in the English.
Yeah,
as well.
a little underutilized, but
Yeah.
I was just glad I was just glad he was there.
I think there's there's stuff that he might be able to do. He's obviously wound down more so now. We're only doing sort of bits here and there, but when he's been working for 50-ish years, maybe it is. I also found out he played Fergus uncredited in SNL in '93 when Miranda was hosting. So they even did an SNL nod to it.
What isn't it depressing to think that movies like this used to be fucking huge, and now a movie like this would always be under the radar? I hate that.
I mean, maybe it's got a chance of coming back. Maybe not like being certainly below the radar, but like doing better. If we're looking at the box office with how seemingly people have grown sick of superhero genres, they're just more into Avatar for some reason.
Well, anytime there's special effects involved, I think people are going to be more willing to part their money to go watch a movie at a theater when the movie's going to look impressive in theater. Like, watching The Crying Game in a theater doesn't really alter the story or any way or add anything to it, really. So people, I think, are going to be less likely to part with their money if they don't feel like they're going to be wowed by the presence of the big screen.
It'd be one of those movies that like gets a limited release in theaters, nobody sees it, and then like a year later it hits a streaming service and then gets popular. Is what seems to be
basically the modern equivalent of Shawshank then.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that when I got on a Grisham kick last year, and it was crazy looking up John Grisham court movies and how those things made so much fucking money when they were coming out. And it's like there's no way like a courtroom drama would break 100 million now. And like most of the Grisham movies from the 90s broke 100 million.
It would depend on who you put in it. Like I think Tom Cruise could get there.
Yeah, because one of the Grisham movies was The Pelican Brief, and that's Denzel and Julia Roberts in the 90s. I said, you got a point.
Yeah, depending on who it is, it could get there.
I was just checking. Runaway Jury only made 18 million, but it came damn close. The only problem is the budget was 60 because they had too many big names in it.
Yeah, the only reason that movie was made was for the one scene in the bathroom with Hackman and Hoffman, which, to that movie's credit, is an awesome scene.
True.
All right, so Brian says The Crying Game is last highly positive and just went to either mixed or bad reviews, never mind even before Crying Game and after Mona Lisa. So AJ, you can go ahead and get final thoughts from the panel, and we'll take this home.
My final thoughts. In a very fucking stellar year, in what has a lot of competition for my favorite things being involved, this is my favorite movie of 1992.
So,
Do you want to go next, brother?
I'll just say for me, I think a movie like this had no business holding my attention as well as it did. But I was engaged throughout. I thought the performances were great, the story was interesting, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it really sort of it's one of those sort of British films that I'm pleased was an international success. Although considering it was with the Weinsteins, I'm a bit conflicted now. Um, but that was sort of that was the start of them knowing what pushed the right buttons to get awards contention as well, because it was that marketing campaign where they basically psychoed it, saying don't say anything. That probably led to it being more successful than it probably would have been, maybe. But yeah, finally good to see it like in full for the first time in a while.
and it was my first viewing, and it lived up to all the hype and then some. I didn't know what direction it was going. It kept me captivated. I wasn't falling asleep during it. I was able to enjoy it from beginning to end. And I thought what I would probably do is I would just watch half of it and then watch the rest of it today after I got off work so I could split it up a little bit. But no. I stayed up and watched the whole thing and then went to bed afterwards. And I may have gotten like 6 hours sleep, which you probably can tell on here because it looks like I'm like droning off every 5 minutes, but it's only because I'm exhausted. But it kept my attention, and some stellar performances from people that I like a lot, like Jim Broadbent. And of course, I mean, it's Wayne's World, always. Wayne's World 2. One of the best comedies of all time. You can't tell me otherwise. And it's just a very well done film. Blood was really cool for 1992 too. Honestly, I think the Blood were really well done. Honestly, yeah. All the jokes that have been made throughout history, what I've seen in pop culture and everything. Now I actually do know about the Crying Game, and I'm very happy that I do. Well done. I think that's your show tonight. So shout to Josie and Brian, and obviously Tim for joining us to chat tonight. Tomorrow, our Q&A show is going to be live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the three of us. And Chris will be joining us again in 2 weeks for the next Popcast Movie Club. Now, tomorrow is also going to be a very important thing. That's our vote to determine which one of our picks is going to go up next 2 weeks from now. Now, when I did everything for the schedule, I made a tentative list. So I will tell you right now, movie clubs, the next one is going to be on April 2nd. That'll be the winner of what would be the battle for tomorrow.
Shit.
Why did you say shit?
Our Jersey trip would be 2 weeks from that, wouldn't it? Because that would make the next one the 16th. I think the 16th one we're getting back, right?
Yeah.
16th is movie club. 17th is Q&A.
I guess we probably don't know when we'd be getting back, do we?
All right. Well, that being said, we'll get you guys a schedule later.
We'll still do the vote. I'm tempted to say if we announce the 4 now, but then we officially put it to vote tomorrow, just so Chris can. I just wanted Chris to actually say his rather than have us having to say what his is. So
that was always the plan for tomorrow, so we're doing that tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to ask, brother. I assume you just want me to say yours on your behalf. because I know what it is.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
So the 16th and 17th time, those dates are going to be tentative. And then right now we've got the 30th will be movie club, and then May 1st, of course, is our anniversary show. Movie club's on the 14th, and QA on the 15th. June 4th and 5th, 18th and 19th, 2nd and 3rd, 16th and 17th. These are all of July. And then July 30th and 31st, August 13th and 14th, and then August 7th. Then it becomes really complicated. So once we get to August, it's going to get really difficult to figure out a schedule, but we'll get there. Don't worry. All right, Ashley can be found on Twitter at Ash is my name UK. New Snack Stash is going to be forthcoming on, looks like, Tuesday. So stay tuned for that. New one just dropped with new UK McDonald's menu items. And more stuff
which
is
one
still
went
to come.
up? Was it the temporary stuff or the permanent one?
I did the McChicken.
Oh, the
I gave
McSpicy?
it in order.
I can't even remember.
And then the next one goes up on Tuesday.
Okay. Because that'll be the sort of flashback one, because those two items aren't available anymore. They were the limited time things.
Yeah, there's so much limited time stuff on Sip and Snack, it's not even funny.
Yeah, but like the other one is sort of, I guess, the most relevant because it is available as like a permanent menu item. So
it's up now, so you're good. Chris, put yourself over.
Instagram, Chris Hunt's Toys, Twitch, Chris Hunt's Toys. I'm going to be getting back on Twitch probably tonight to stream some more of WWE 2K23. We have a couple toy hunts coming up. So as AJ mentioned, next month there's a toy hunt in New Jersey at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. And then in May, I'll be doing a toy hunt. In Lexington, Kentucky at Toy Headquarters. So we'll have stuff for that as well.
Yes, Chris heads to Toy Vomit live on his Twitch. And if you know, you know.
I was gonna say maybe the hunt is gonna be for Chris is to get one of the toys at Walmart so he can get the action figure John Cena in the My Faction mode in 2K23.
I'm not worried about it that much.
Coming.
You already have to fight an invisible Cena.
Yeah, true.
AJ, of course, cannot be found on social media, and just like Keith Richards, cannot be killed by conventional weapons. 2023 reviews coming up real soon. Check out reviews on the television shows of the finish of the English, and i.e. Chris, take a shot. AJ hates his life. Santa Clauses. There's 3 episodes. Check those out.
I'm just glad it's over.
Yep.
I saw that you posted you finally finished it.
Literally sent me a message, said kill it with fire. I'll leave it at that. So yeah, more content's coming from AJ soon. I just put up a ton of stuff and I'm not done yet, not even close. We're caught up now and I got so much Sip and Snacks still to come. Energy drinks, special sodas, special foods, items from California still. I mean, I just put up a bunch of new like Disneyland videos from shows that are out there. Check those out if you get a chance to. Ride throughs of certain things. Like I have a Waterworld video, I got See Your Life with Pets ride through, lots of stuff. So stay tuned for that. Follow me on Twitter at SirOwenDisney, and again, we have a Discord now. It's going to be in the description bar below for the actual, because it's one of those things that doesn't really have like a .com or anything like that. It's one of those like garbled letters, just like all Discord servers are. So yeah, that's link in the description below.
Discord servers only sort of give you like a chance to name it if you get like so much money.
Yeah, that's not happening. But yeah, check out our Discord server, link in the description below. That's going to be your show today. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Q&A show. And then 2 weeks later, Popcast Movie Club will be between one of the 4 of us. We'll pick. selected. So that being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. Stream all your water parks on all your streaming services. And until next time, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.